This is the first episode of What the Fuck? I'm going to be delving into topics that don't really fit anywhere, that are difficult to classify, kind of intellectual deep dives into different things that I find interesting. If you don't find them interesting, piss off. Don't care. You don't have to watch the video. What I want to talk about in this episode is the culture war, which is that absolutely fascinates me because ever since the onset of the entertainment medium, music, radio, and especially television, you've got this entertainment medium aggressively pushing cultural ideas and norms onto the masses. And this has been, by and large, it has been massively successful and profitable. Okay. And in my mind, what you have is a cultural phenomenon where each generation, there's different music, different fashion sense. The morality shifts in just such a way to completely separate the children from their parents. Like, the children are going to have a completely different ability about the world than their parents, which means that there's no connection. It's a separation from one generation to the next. It's creating a separation, and that there's power in that. If you want to think that's conspiratorial, fine, do that. But it's quite intentional. This generational split is so engineered. It can't be more. I mean, you can take 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's like there's a 10-year. How do you think that was so neatly done? You think that just happened? Like, that was just a natural phenomenon? That there was just a style to each decade? Like, it's crafted. It's beautiful manipulation and manufacturing of, there's a musical sense, a fashion sense, a morality to each decade that you can quantify, that's physically present for each decade. Now, when you get to the 2000s, 2010s, especially, this becomes very muddled. Like, I can't define the 2000s or the 2010s. It doesn't seem to. It feels disjointed when you compare it to like 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, each of those, there's a quality to it that you could attribute, and you could make something that was the 90s and people would understand it's 90s. How do you do that for the 2000s? How do you do that for the 2010s? What defines the last 20 years? Now, why has it become muddled? It is not because the mainstream corporate machine has stopped doing the same exact formula that it does. It's been trying to do that, to conform, to keep simulating those kind of 10-year chunks of culture. The problem is this right here. Me interacting with you, talking to you, whoever you are. Doesn't matter. You could be 70 years old. You could be 17 years old. The fact is that this thing, this YouTube phenomenon, this social media platform has created, it's thrown a wrench in the works. It's created a problem for these machine that has gotten very accustomed to getting its way, to being able to predict what people are going to buy, what people are going to embrace. It's creating a problem. Okay, this is where the culture war happens, because what we've been seeing is major multi-billion-dollar corporations who are invested in producing games, film, television shows. Right? These aren't people who are into taking risks. They're hedging their bets. They tend to be accustomed to knowing what is going to be embraced. Okay, so when you start to see major productions, like one after the other, that are failing, that are losing money, that are hitting a brick wall, right? You got to ask yourself, well, are the people in charge just not? Do they not understand? What's happening? Are they just producing crap? Do they not understand? Like, are they just this out of touch? No, they're doing exactly what the numbers, their previous statistical information is telling them. Like, this is what should be selling right now at this time and place. This is what should be working. Why isn't it working? You want to know why? Because for the first time in a long time, the younger generations have access to the older generations. Okay. The slightly older people are on YouTube. They're on the social media platforms. And as the youth breaks away from like mainstream television, they're on YouTube in mass numbers. They're watching and engaging YouTube, right? They are coming in contact with contrary ideas to what they're being pounded with their entertainment, like their cartoons and education and the films they're trying to stuff down their throats. They're coming in contact with people who are like rejecting that entire, they don't want it, they don't like it, it doesn't, no. They're not in agreement with it. And for the first time, a percentage of the next generation is rejecting what mainstream is pushing, because sometimes all it takes is someone just saying, hey, have you ever thought about this? Did you ever think that maybe this wasn't legit? You know, sometimes all it takes to break you out of the spell, of the manipulation, is just someone saying, just presenting an alternative idea. So my theory is that the internet is creating a feedback loop. It's like a feedback loop that has not been experienced in like 100 years. Okay? The youth has not been able to access the older generations in this way for quite some time. Like, look, go back 50 years ago. I'm in my early 40s. How would an early 40s motherfucker 50 years ago interact with a 20-year-old? How would I even get in a conversation, right? Like, there's no scenario where that's going to happen. But with the internet, with YouTube and social media, all of a sudden you have this insane mix. It's just everyone mashing together, all ages. It's creating a very different dynamic. And mainstream doesn't know how to compensate, doesn't know how to adjust its predictions. It's floundering. It's failing. It's failing in hilarious, miserable ways. Like, it just doesn't know how to handle it, because their projections were like, this is the movie that should have been it should have been a hit. And all of a sudden it's a failure. It's a box office disaster. Why? Well, it's because the youth is actually coming in contact with an older generation's wisdom, and they're questioning. They've stepped back. They're stepping back and questioning. So, this is what's going on. This is why the culture war is so intense. It's so invigorated right now. It's because of the internet. And, I don't know. I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's exactly what society needs and culture needs. But at the same time, corporations, they can't be too happy about it. They're not going to be happy about it. So what's the retaliation going to be? I don't know. But it's a fascinating phenomenon. It's a beautiful thing. I think in an odd way, the internet represents this instantaneous, all the speed of knowledge, right? It's this instantaneous gratification. But the irony is, I think, is that the internet is actually causing a slowdown. It's causing a slowdown of cultural, of mainstream being able to push things forward at the alarming rate that they were expecting. It's actually causing a slowdown because the young generation is coming in contact with the older generation in a way that maybe wasn't quite expected. So it's actually causing things to simmer a little bit, which is fantastic. I love it. That's my theory. Maybe I'm full of shit. Let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And I'll see you on the next What the Fuck.